Brothers, thank you for gathering in this way for this forum today. I know we normally gather in person, but given the COVID situation, this is as good as we can do, and I believe it can be very effective. So I hope you enjoy it. I've been asked to say something about the announcement about the plan to merge the District of the Pacific and the Province of Australia together by the end of 2022. It's a bold undertaking, you might say. However, when you think of the history of the brothers and you think of the history of our particular region, we know that this is just one more chapter. It's a new chapter for us. And so it is something that I'm greatly looking forward to. I think that the challenge ahead is for us to build a cohesive community, albeit across vast tracts of land and water. But that can be done because we are brothers, and what unites us is much more than anything that separates us. So, a few things about our hopes and plans for this particular new configuration. What do we want it to be? Well, first of all, of course, a province is, as we all know, one province across the countries that we currently have in the region. And in that province, there will be, as there always is, a provincial council, province policies, province directions, and those latter things will be set by the provincial chapter, which will need to occur as we commence the new province at the end of 2022. But it will be, by necessity, a decentralised model. Now, what do I mean by that? In the letter that was sent out, we spoke about it as a federation model. So what's important is that every country or every region has a voice, and a voice that's respected and that's heard, irrespective of size. So it's very important that we structure some decentralised parts for this province. What they are, we're not 100% sure. And in fact, that is really the key piece of the puzzle that we'll be working on over the next 2 years. Having so many countries means we have so many laws. We have different ways of looking at education. We have different arrangements with finance. So it's very important that the structures that each country currently has are maintained. So the trustees of the Marist Brothers are our legal identity in Australia and will remain so. The New Zealand Marist Brothers Trust Board, similarly, is the legal identity in New Zealand. The Trust Board in Samoa, the Trust Board in Fiji. There are also propriety companies. So each country has their own laws and their own regulations, and we have our own legal identities. The Marist Brothers Trust Board in New Zealand, Trust Board in Samoa, Trust Board in Fiji, the trustees of the Marist Brothers in Australia. We'll need to continue to work through those. Similarly, education systems vary. In New Zealand, the 3 schools owned by the Marist Brothers are all proprietary companies. In Australia, we are looking now at incorporating the association and of delegating them with governance responsibility for our schools. So all of these are part of the arrangements that we need to consider when we're looking at this decentralised model. How will that operate? The easy part is the establishment of the province. The complex part is making sure that there is a sense of community, there's a sense of voice, there's a sense of engagement across this big area. So that is the basic outline of what we are hoping to have. But what do we hope to achieve through this? Well, I suppose the first thing is that we do hope that we can usher in the new province. What do I mean? I mean that there are still, for us as brothers, opportunities to create something new. We probably see this at its clearest in East Timor, where our mission is growing. In other parts of the Pacific, there's also a need for leadership and for capacity to grow Marist life. We think that is really something that is very important for this. At the same time, we want to make sure that the key priority areas in Australia and in New Zealand are met. And for the brothers in Australia and New Zealand, their situation is vastly different to what we have in other parts of our Marist region. So we need to look at the health and the aged care of the brothers to make sure that they are priorities for us in New Zealand and in Australia. We also want to ensure that, the brothers are well cared for in every sense, that the unnecessary disruption is minimised, and that there is really healthy stewardship of our resources for the future. We think all that can be achieved through the new province. When it comes to the individuals, I know some of you will say, well, it's not going to affect me. Well, that may be true in one sense. But what we hope we do have is your goodwill, your encouragement, your support for those people who will be closely involved in what is coming, in the changes that are afoot. It's also important that we need to make sure that what we do for ourselves is something that we do in partnership with our lay colleagues here and elsewhere. Because we know that our Marist charism is for the church and is for all people. It's not just for us. So as I said at the beginning, while the focus is on the brothers' life, their consecrated life, their community life, we also are in close connection with our lay people, our lay Marists, and they still look to us for inspiration, support, encouragement. And I know, as we have in the past, we will continue to offer that. So, brothers, this is a big undertaking, but we have lots of advantages. We have the advantages of what we've learned from the bringing together of the Melbourne and Sydney provinces 10 years ago. We also can learn from other congregations. For instance, both the Christian Brothers and the De La Salle Brothers have international provinces. The De La Salle Brothers, their province covers Australia, New Zealand, Pakistan, New Guinea. The Christian Brothers, similarly, their province covers Australia, New Zealand, New Guinea. They, of course, also have these internal units. For the Christian Brothers, they talk about cluster communities. The De La Salle Brothers have similar arrangements. So they too will be part of our planning over the next 2 years. There will be engagement both within our current communities and also with other groups outside that we can learn from. And I'm sure that we take the lessons of the last 10 years, what we can learn from other congregations, with our own hopes for the future to create something very positive, very enriching for us and for our church. So, brothers, there are probably thousands of questions, and I really do thank you for sending some of those in. I probably haven't answered them all. I hope I've given you a rough outline of where we're going. I say rough because we know the destination. We're just not sure of the exact journey yet. It's also true, I suppose, that some of this is going to emerge in consultation and in dialogue with you over the next 2 years. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. And I just want to say thank you for listening to me. And I hope that you enjoy the opportunity to discuss some of this with others through the means of communication that we're using. So thank you, brothers.
Ko Maori, kia ora, ni sa pula, talo falawa. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you, sharing with you my feelings and thoughts about the topic of our region moving towards a single administrative unit. I wish you all the best in your forums, and I send with to you all the good wishes of our brothers from the district of the Pacific. I am looking forward to us becoming a single province. I am excited. I think that this is an opportunity to bring life giving experiences of marriage life and mission to our region. I believe that what brings us together is our sense of our vocation of being called marriage brothers. There is something unique and special about this call to be a brother. And it is a call to community, and it is a special sense of brotherhood that somehow unites us, that somehow, despite our differences, our many differences, personalities, or culture, what brings us together is this strong sense of brotherhood, of marriage brotherhood that we receive from our founder, Marceline Champagne. I've been lucky that to be able to live in multicultural communities, like at the Marriage Asia Pacific Center in Manila, in which I have been living with brothers from different cultures of the world. And one of the things that I have learned from that experience is that you get to know and respect one another when you learn more about each other's cultures, when you become to understand and take time and show some initiative in appreciating the differences that we have as people of different cultures. And our vast Oceania and East Timor will provide that opportunity of huge differences. They are opportunities more than challenges. The word that is significant for me is the word networking. I feel that this opportunity of coming together as a province will provide us with the opportunity to develop our networking. First of all, networking in the healthcare of our brothers, as many of our brothers, both in Australia and here in New Zealand, are above 70 and the 80 age group. We want to offer them the best of healthcare. Networking will also help us in our ministries, in our collaborations, especially in our schools, the networking that will support our schools through sharing of experiences, of skills and talents, of knowledge, and at times of resources, both personal, people, and monetary. Networking also in the field of formation. The reality is that we have fewer formators. And so it is important that we utilize the wonderful brothers that we have in formation who have been trained to work for formation, and we utilize them so that our young men who wish to follow us, our footsteps, will have the best formation that we could offer. Networking will also create opportunities for collaboration among our Champagne marists, our lay marists. There's a lot has been going on in Australia, and I'm sure that the experiences from the different groups will enrich the formation and the spreading of this charism that we wish to share to others, especially to our lay people. Networking will also create opportunities for leadership, sharing of leaders, brothers who have this skill throughout the province, but especially in developing local leadership in our different countries. And that is our aim, to develop local leadership and to develop sustainability, so that it's not just groups continue to be dependent on others, but to develop a sense of pride, self sufficiency, and leadership that will unite us all. And lastly, networking in the sense that becoming one will create us a stronger voice within the region. And like a ring of fire, it will produce something beautiful and carrying out the course of the chapter that we have from the general chapters, but also through the different chapters that we have in our AUs. Thank you for the opportunity. Tofa Soifua.
Hello, brothers, and greetings from Rome. I was asked to give a brief history of our rule of life. See, as you recall, last October 7th, on the Feast of Our Lady of the Rosary, the Institute received this important document, Wherever You Go, the Rule of Life of the Marist Brothers. It is a text that allows us to deepen our understanding of our consecration, our brotherhood, and our mission, with the hope to inspire an integrated approach to our spiritual journey. It is intended to be read, meditated on, and prayed over, both personally and in community. So where did this document actually come from? Well, a little background. A little over 10 years ago, in a reflection of the 21st General Chapter, we spoke of the need for a conversion of heart in view of the ever-changing world in which we live. An in-depth revision of our constitutions and statutes was proposed with a broad consultation of brothers and with the purpose of helping us to revitalize our vocation. Therefore, that chapter recommended that this revision be carried out and that a new text be presented to the 22nd General Chapter. This process of consultation and revision began in 2013. As you may recall, we took up the reflection and the conversations prompted by the guide, Stories of the Journey, told around the fire, and then had the chance to send in suggestions and amendments to the constitutions and statutes. The level of participation was very high, and many reports were received. Along the way, the idea came up of producing a new document belonging to our proper law, a rule of life which would contain inspiring thoughts and language, and which would allow us to deepen our understanding of our consecration as Marist Brothers, our own brotherhood, and the mission that has been entrusted to us. The hope would be that this document would complement our statutes and constitutions, which are much more canonical in character. This proposal was put to the 22nd General Chapter, and it was accepted. The chapter welcomed the initial draft text and asked the General Council to develop further a final version and approve it. The basic framework of the rule of life is quite simple. All of the articles of the Constitution which were deleted, which were dealing with theology, spirituality, and other practical aspects, would be now included in this rule of life. It would allow for a much more lived experience of our life as brothers. The rule of life itself would adopt the style of other rules, such as the rule in Taizé and the rule for a new brother. It would be simple in its style and simple in its language. And as a frame of reference, the Vatican document, the identity and mission of the religious brother in the Church, would be used in order to continue this conversation and understanding of our vocation as brother. The document itself would have a spiritual tone, elements of prayer, and a certain level of poetic freedom. The rule itself is to be understood in three parts. The first part, our vocation, our being brother, to be understood as brotherhood as mystery. The second part would be our way of living in community, brotherhood as communion. And the third part deals with our heart, where we are in a permanent attitude of service, looking at brotherhood as mission. So, brothers, I end this brief history with some words from our rule. We're asked to live our brotherhood with simplicity. Your primary mission is to be a brother and to promote brotherhood. So I repeat this invitation to all of you today. For this document to be more than a rule or a set of obligation, it should be seen as a source of inspiration and contemplation as we reflect on our contemporary Marist life and our vocation as brother. I encourage you, brothers, to read and reflect on this document. Thank you, and God bless.
Subtum presidium conformum